I love that song. Thank you, Chris, and the music team. You know, I could almost hear John and Chris singing in the background because I'm used to you guys singing that. So, thank you. What a perfect song and perfect time of year for it. So, good morning, everyone, and thank you all to all of you who are joining us via Zoom or the Facebook live stream. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Reverend Carmela, and it's my great honor and privilege to be the minister of Unity Spiritual Center. Today, we're concluding our series on the seven paths to God, the way of the mystic. So far we've looked at paths 1 to 6, which is the everyday mystic, the generosity of spirit, the passion to serve, the way of the heart, and discipline, ethics, and will, and opening the wisdom eye, contemplation and transformation. And I invite you during this series and today to just listen with an open-minded heart and see if any of these paths feel familiar or if you resonate with any of them. If you've missed any or would like to revisit them, you can find the videos on our website, which is unityspiritualcenter.org under Sunday services, or they're on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. If you're viewing the live stream and would like to join us on Zoom, feel free to email unity@unityspiritualcenter.org, and I'll send you the link for future services. So again, today we're looking at Path 7. Path 7 is the way of faith, paradox, and grace. And I'd like to start with a story. Once upon a time in ancient China, there lived a Taoist farmer who followed the great way to serve God. He was considered a wealthy man because he had a horse to help with the plowing. One early spring morning, his horse ran off. When the villagers heard of this, they rushed to his home to express their sympathy. But all the Taoist farmer said was, maybe. The next morning, his horse returned, leading an entire herd of wild mustangs. The townspeople rushed over again, exclaiming his good fortune. Now you are the richest man in the province, they said. But all the farmer said was, maybe. The following morning, the farmer's son awoke at dawn to break in one of the new wild horses. It promptly threw him, and his leg broke. The townspeople rushed over in alarm. What a terrible thing, they wept. Without the help of your son, how will you be able to plant your fields? But all the farmer said was maybe. The next afternoon, the emperor's soldiers rode into town, kicking up an enormous cloud of dust. They had come to recruit all the young men into war, but the farmer's son couldn't go because of his broken leg. The townspeople once again gathered around to marvel at the farmer's good luck, but all he said was maybe. So the story continues in the same way for many more verses, demonstrating the important principle of non-attachment and its relationship to faith. The farmer knows that the Tao, or the absolute underlying principle of the universe, or God, is harmonious and just, that all things conspire creatively for life to grow and evolve. Incidents that appear either good or bad can never be judged on their own. Life is a paradox in which all things are relative and interrelated. One can only have faith in the ultimate working of the underlying principle of God, the universe. As the Buddha pointed out in the Four Noble Truths, suffering is an inevitable part of life unless we develop an attitude of non-attachment, which can be difficult at times. But in our society, if we're not affected by something, it can be misconstrued as heartlessness or a lack of interest or depression or psychological isolation. And sometimes that can be the case. But how can we tell if it's faith-based non-attachment or closed-heartedness? Well, are we or the person kind, helpful, creative, loving, and compassionate? If we are, then it's an indication of faith. You know, it's easy to have faith in the absolute principle, the underlying principle of the universe, in God, in divinity, when all things are going well. But faith is put to the test in crisis and when times are tough. Then the spiritual growth that has developed from within and from following the other paths is called into action. Path 7, the way of faith, is like a river fed from the other streams, the other 6 paths. Once developed, it becomes a path unto itself, and those who walk it become the brightest lights in the world. We're all light, but these people become brightest, like Gandhi or Mother Teresa. Now, St. Paul defined faith as the substance of things hoped for, but not yet seen. Most of us hope that the universe is loving, but it takes faith to maintain that hope in the face of tragedies that occur. And we know that all events happen for the greater good, that nothing is accidental or without the capacity to help us grow as loving co-creators with God. You know, as we were speaking of earlier before we started the service today, I was in an accident on Friday. A deer ran into me. Now, we talk about metaphysical malpractice, right? And metaphysical malpractice is taking a spiritual principle or truth and using it against yourself. I could have easily said, why did I bring this to me? Why is this happening to me? But I chose not to. I chose to just know that for whatever reason, I was meant to experience that on Friday. Maybe it was to just become totally grateful that I wasn't hurt. Maybe it was to honor the majestic being that ran into me. Maybe it was to encounter the people that helped me. We don't know why things happen, but what is within our power is to not judge it, to just be with it, and to know that there's a higher purpose for which we may not know. That's faith. That's faith in the underlying principle of good in God. The author, Dr. Joan Borisenko, shares an experience of one of her patients, Paul. He was hospitalized on Christmas Eve and was being fed intravenously because of a chronic bowel disease had caused him to lose a lot of weight and become malnourished. He was a devout Catholic and had no knowledge of Eastern philosophies, yoga, the energy body, and he felt this sudden burst of energy that began in the base of his spine and rose up like a fire through his body to the crown of his head. Now, all of us familiar with Eastern philosophies know that this is Kundalini energy. And I've been blessed to have experienced that about 30 years ago. Suddenly, Paul's entire view of the world changed. Everything seemed different. Everything seemed perfect, working as it should. At that point, the nurse walked by with a cart of medications, and he perceived that incredible interrelatedness of all the events that led to the medicine's existence and the perfect way that those medications were suited for each patient. Everything seemed in harmony. Everything was beautiful. And he perceived that everything was working towards the greatest good. When Paul tried to explain this experience to the social worker, she panicked and called a psychiatrist. The psychiatrist offered him Valium because the psychiatrist had no knowledge of Kundalini energy and had no knowledge that the experience that the Kundalini energy could bring someone to, which is that union with God. The psychiatrist considers Paul's experience or his experience of perfection as a temporary psychotic state. that he felt was probably due to an electrolyte imbalance. While Paul refused the Valium, for the remainder of the night, he was in a blissful state of divine union where all things seemed perfect and he was present in each moment. And then his mind would seize up with a negative thought or a memory. As soon as he began to think fearfully, he would exit that state of divine union. But as soon as Paul could let go of those negative thoughts, his heart and mind opened once again, and he re-entered that state of bliss. Now, that experience of God union faded by the morning, but he was left with such a gift. The experience of that God union, that experience of divine oneness, that experience of knowing that all is good. You know, like Paul, when we close down in fear, the life force energy within us cannot rise and bring us into that direct experience with God. So we need to watch these thoughts. We need to monitor these thoughts because the mystical experience of God union is available to all of us. Now, for Paul, it occurred because of his devotion to his religious practices, but it can happen for anyone. Christianity calls this grace. We are loved and guided and protected by the divine. But like the story of the Taoist farmer or Paul, who received grace in the midst of adversity, we can't dictate the way in which we receive grace. What we can do, though, is monitor our thoughts, our beliefs. And when they're negative, it's our function to be aware of that so that we can change it. Whether it's judgment of ourselves or others, we can change those judgments. In his book, Stages of Faith, Harvard theologian James Fowler published a study of how we develop faith and its relationship to our psychological development. Fowler distinguishes 6 stages of psycho-spiritual growth in relation to faith. So small children under the age of 7 live in an imaginative world filled with angels and demons and fairies and monsters. They imitate and assume the beliefs of the people around them. So if a child lives in a frightening household or is exposed to the fire and brimstone images of a terrifying God, these images become deeply embedded in their psyche and can create fear-based faith. Now, that was my experience when I was growing up. From 7 until puberty, children undergo a second stage of psychological development where they tend to divide things into distinct linear categories. So everything is black and white, or good and evil, or just and unjust. The faith of this stage rests in the concept of fairness. Stories, myths, and dramas are understood literally, and the child demands reciprocity. So, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. But life is not linear. And it seems unfair to them if they expect to be rewarded by a Santa Claus God for being good, punished for being bad, and they don't get what they expect. If as adults we are unable to appreciate paradox and relatively and relate like the Taoist farmer, we need to do some healing in order to grow out of this childish concept of reward and punishment in the next stages of faith. Now, at puberty, children enter into a third developmental phase and begin to think for themselves and look beyond the beliefs of their family. Faith becomes an extension of interpersonal relationships and the need to be acceptable and fit in, conforming to the judgments of others of their peer group. Now, according to Fowler, many people remain in this stage of faith, never stepping outside of their assumptions and never reflecting on them. They hold on to what the group that they're involved with teaches, and they never consider an alternative. This is where the value of the dark night of the soul comes in. They're valuable because they call us to examine our beliefs. The dark night puts us face to face with our most deeply held beliefs and offers the opportunity to examine and revise those beliefs. And by doing that, we arrive at a new level of faith. As life progresses from adolescence to adulthood, or after we have survived the dark night of the soul that moves us beyond the third state of faith, and the fourth stage unfolds, we develop the capacity to reflect on ourselves as individuals and face the inevitable tensions between who we are and what people want us to be, between what we believe and what they want us to believe, between meeting our own needs and being able to serve others. Ultimately, we begin to seek more multi-leveled approaches to faith. Basically, we're opening up, we're widening and extending our consciousness. The author says that by midlife, we learn that life is not easy and there are no simple prescriptions for happiness. It's clear that God doesn't reward or punish. We're aware of the paradoxes that life holds, and we are simultaneously alone, but all one. We can perceive powerful truths and at the same time appreciate their relativity. Stories and myths reach us metaphorically through the language of spirit. But there's still tension in this fifth stage of faith. We live caught between a transformed world and a transforming vision. An untransformed world and a transforming vision. So our vision is bigger than what the world shows us. Now, this sixth stage of faith is what Fowler calls universalizing faith. It universalizes. We see that there's no separation, that there's no difference. There's no them versus us. There's just the one. It's the faith of the Taoist farmer, of the true mystic who perceives the larger whole that is greater than the sum of all its parts. Now, people at this stage may act strange and in unconventional ways and are often considered subversive by religious organizations, like Jesus and Joan of Arc. And like Jesus and Joan of Arc, they may be a threat to those structures, so they're martyred, only to be honored in death, as they were feared in life. Now, the author cites such figures as Gandhi, Martin Luther King, Mother Teresa, Rabbi Abraham Heschel, and the Catholic priest Thomas Merton as examples of universalizing faith. Life is a process of evolution in which we become progressively whole, psychologically and spiritually. Our faith is a measure of that evolution, whether we are Jews or Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, Muslims, Taoists, or Native Americans, or even just free spirits who adhere to no particular tradition. Every religion and system for growth has its own teachings and stories for living. When we reach the level of universalized faith, we can see the beauty in all traditions and appreciate the way in which the various parts lead to the same goal: union with the divine, the experience of the divine. In 1871, the great Lakota visionary and warrior Crazy Horse saw a future time of peace when people of all colors and beliefs would be united under a great sacred tree. The earth would be honored and life appreciated as a gift from the Creator. The tree of life is a symbol common to many cultures. Its roots are in the ground and its different branches touch the sky. Beneath the shelter of this tree, people find respect, tolerance, charity, compassion, unity, and love. If you are on the path of the mystic, you are representative of a branch of this sacred tree. Together, we can bring a new world, a new time of heaven on earth into being. Unlike the other 6 paths, there are no suggestions for the Path 7 mystic because the way of the faith is the trunk of the tree, which grows together with the rest of the branches. Whatever your primary or secondary paths may be, follow them with all your mind, your heart, and your soul. For you are the hope of the world. No one ever develops faith and comes into relationship with God without touching the lives of others and becoming a force for good. Like a stone tossed into a pond, the ripples of every prayer, every meditation, every discipline, every loving act spreads through the universe for the benefit of all being. We are that. We spread our energies, our love, we extend it, and it's felt for the benefit of all beings. I pray that more and more of us awaken to divinity in these times. May we live the words of the Christian mystic Meister Eckhart, who wrote, "The eye with which I see God is the same eye as that with which God sees me. My eye and the eye of God are one eye, one vision, one knowledge, and one love." This is division that unites all 7 paths and creates a rainbow bridge to a new earth and a new heaven. Amen. So now I invite you to just get comfortable in your seats, take everything off your lap, and allow yourself to just breathe comfortably as we move into meditation. Close your eyes and just focus on your breath. Allow every breath you take to allow you to relax more and more. Feel every breath you take calming you and relaxing every cell in your body. Because as you breathe in this life-affirming, healing oxygen. And as you breathe out, you feel all tension, all sources of doubt, concern, just leave your body, leave your mind. And as your breathing slows down, you allow yourself to just breathe at a comfortable pace for you. And we allow ourselves to just focus on that center of our being, that place where love resides, that place where the Christ lives, that place that is our divinity. And when events around us seem to be overwhelming, when worry and doubt dampen the landscape of our minds, we call forth faith. We affirm that faith will see us through anything. We see faith as a reservoir deep within us that can be easily drawn from. Faith in the underlying principle of good in God sustains us and lightens the road ahead of us. Faith expands my awareness to recognize the presence of spirit in myself, in every person, in every place, and in every circumstance. It reminds me to trust in my abilities and to believe in myself, knowing that I am always supported by the divine. Faith uplifts my thoughts and words to create a brighter picture. It reminds me to be open to divine guidance, intuitive knowing, and spiritual cues. Faith reassures me that regardless of my current circumstances in the outer world, all is truly well, and I am guided and supported at every moment in my life. So now I allow myself to move deeper and deeper into the silence, and I bring to mind any and all things that no longer serve me, that need to be released. And I allow the Holy Spirit to take these things from me as I move forward in faith, knowing that the underlying good of all things, God, the Creator, is within me and supports me in all that I do. And now we bring to mind anyone who may be in need of prayer, anyone, all those on our unity prayer list on Silent Unity, and we extend it to the wider circle of the world. We affirm that there is a power and a presence within each of them that will see them through any condition that they are currently experiencing, whether it be physical, emotional, spiritual, or mental. We know that there is a divine power within them always. And we pray for their comfort and easy passage through this experience. And now I invite you to bring your consciousness back into your body, back into the room where you are. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. Welcome back, everyone. And this is the time during our service where we have the opportunity. Oh, wait a minute. Is there a song now? No, the gifts. Okay. Where we have the opportunity to give. So I invite you to take your gifts and hold them in your hand. If you use a credit card, you can visualize the credit card or the PayPal symbol or even the link on our website. We allow the love that we are to move down from our heart through our arms into these gifts. We're so grateful for the awareness that God is source and God consciousness is our supply. We have so many blessings, and we're so grateful to be able to share those blessings. And I invite you all now to affirm these gifts with me, with your mics muted. Together, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I choose to give and all that I am open to receive, and I am grateful.
And our closing song for this morning is What Faith Can Do.
Everybody falls